In today's video, I take on Gran Turismo 7's latest daily race C at Spa in Group 3. Now, there is some controversy at the moment, I believe, with the way that Gran Turismo are using the custom slipstream, and I'm really interested to know your perspective on your feelings on this. I have my view, and I'm going to portray my views in this video, and I'd love to hear what you think about this race. So let's jump into this Spa Group 3 race in Group 3. A few different cars you can use. I'm in the McLaren. It's not the fastest car overall, but I enjoy driving it here. Now, there is quite a few options you can use for this daily race, including the BMW, the Mercedes, the Lexus, the McLaren that I'm in. I believe the Porsche probably will be usable as well in terms of staying in the custom slipstream, and obviously the Supra as well. I've seen people do quite well in the Supra, so there's many different cars you can jump into this race with and take part. It's about finding the car that you like. Now, overall, the Lexus probably is the quickest in terms of pure pace, but when this custom slipstream is used, it doesn't actually matter too much. But yeah, in my view, I think this custom slipstream is getting a little bit out of hand. You're going to see just how easy it is to overtake here, as I'm getting the slipstream from the BMW that still has a little bit of slipstream to the cars in front. And you can really see, obviously it is exaggerated a little bit by the McLaren's ability in fifth gear, but it should never be that easy to get an overtake done, I feel, just by using the slipstream. And at this stage in Gran Turismo, I now feel that PD need to start considering just taking the dirty air away from real slipstream, just putting 50% of the dirty air, like half in it. Still have dirty air in the real slipstream, just half the amount in it, or just take the dirty air from custom slipstream and put it into real, because as far as I'm concerned, nobody ever said that the real slipstream was too weak. I believe everyone thinks it's pretty much about how it should be. So I'm not sure why they felt the need to have this custom slip with this exaggerated power. But you can see here, it's going to help us out here as we get a little bit of a bump from the car behind. And we're going to go down the left-hand side. Now, Brown, don't think he saw us going down that left, but we just about had enough space and managed to pull off a nice move there up into P5. So the McLaren is going quite well here. We've gone from P7 to P5 so far in one lap there, and it is going to get very hard to overtake those. So you can see that the cars in the front are all in slip to each other. We're going to defend this line into this corner and then try and tuck into the slipstream to the BMW in front of me. Now, you can see that the Lexus is right behind us, and he's going to probably go to the left-hand side of the track here. You can see he's going to try and come out the slipstream. What he's doing there is he wants to get the perfect slip to try and go for an overtake. So you can see what you do is you break the slip a bit and then you pick up a better part of the slip towards the straight. But the McLaren is very good in fifth gear, and you can actually see here we've got the slip, we've got a bit of slip to the car in front, and now we're into sixth gear and we can go defensive here. He's going to try and go down the left, but we're able to brake quite late there, and we're managing to hold the inside and stay in P5. But there is two big problems, I feel. One, it's too easy to overtake, and another problem is you find that cars that don't really have the pace are able to stay with cars that are a lot quicker. I've had cars that are a lot quicker than me, and I'm able to stay with them purely because of the slipstream. And then you actually have a third issue, which is actually probably the worst issue out of all of them. If you have 2 or 3 cars working well at the front together and you lose the slipstream to them, your race is over, because you physically cannot stay on pace with how strong the slip is. So I'm interested to know what you think. I totally understand the people that do like this slipstream, because it does create some overtaking and it does create a bit of excitement, but it's fictional racing in my view. It's very fictional racing. As you can see there, we get quite a nice exit from that corner there. He got a little bit of a loss of traction. We got a good exit, and this is going to be going for a move up into P4. So we're going to have to brake late, try and use that first gear to rotate it, and we actually pull off another nice move there into turn 1, and now we're going to try and get into the slipstream to P3. So the BMW behind this is probably going to try and work with us. But yeah, as we were saying, I believe what it causes a big issue, because if you're not in that lead group and they work together, they're going to just go, because if they're bump drafting each other, which it does actually create an even worse situation with the bump drafting, because people are more likely to bump with this slipstream as powerful it is, because they know that if they work together they get away from other cars. And that is another issue created by this powerful slipstream that PD keep on incorporating into these races. And like I say, I totally get it. It does create a lot of excitement in the races. It does create very close racing. It was the same last week on last week's Daily Race C in Group 4. Same situation. You were able to stay with anyone. It created exciting racing. But for me, it doesn't feel like how racing should be. I feel like the faster drivers should be rewarded. You should have a real challenge to stay with faster drivers. And with real slipstream, it is a real challenge. You have to drive pretty much at your maximum to stay with faster drivers. And that's what I like about the real Slipstream. You do have to really be focused, but I do agree that the dirty air within real Slipstream is a little bit too high, so they just need to cut that back and leave the power on real, and I think we'd have the perfect slip. But we've been trying to explain this to PD for quite a few years now. Will they ever listen? Who knows? But in this race, you can see there we're right up behind Sparks, and we can see the BMW behind us has unfortunately gave himself half a second penalty. Now, because of that penalty, that is pretty much going to be his race over, because once he drops out of the 1 second range, the Slipstream will go all the way up to 1.7 and 1.8. But outside that 1 second range, you really find it hard to gain a massive amount. Now, you can see here, we're picking up the Slipstream to Sparks. I actually had to get out the slip a little bit there so that I could pick up a little bit more on the straight. And you're going to see now the massive amount of speed that we're going to gain when you get really close. You can see into 6th gear already, and we're going to have to bump draft him because we need to get him up to the cars in front, and we're going to actually hit 169 there. Would have actually been 170. Now, the cars in the front of this group were doing 161 before they got bump drafted, so it really does show you there 8 to 9 miles per hour extra speed on the straight. In my view, for a short straight like that, is far too much. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like it's gaining you far too much. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. But let's get back into this race now. You can see here on lap 5, we're coming up to the pit stop phase. Now, for this race, you have to use hard and soft tyre. Myself and everyone else in this front group are on the hard tyres, and myself and Fusa are going to go in on lap 5. Now, the advantage of this is you're going to go in and put a lovely set of fresh soft tyres on lap 5 and get a huge undercut and hope that you can get away from the battling group that's going to be coming for you on the fresher tyres. Now, the optimal way of running this overall, if you run a clean race, I don't think there's a huge difference. I think running 5 laps to 6 laps is pretty close. 5 laps might actually be marginally faster. However, if you have a chasing group that pick up your Slipstream, they're then going to get the benefit if they pit later and then manage to get in your Slipstream towards the end. They're going to get dragged forward so quickly because they're going to have the fresher tyres and obviously that powerful Slipstream. So picking your strategy here is a very much a tactical choice. So for this race, I felt like there was an opportunity. I was hoping that Fusa would have the perfect outlap. He made a little mistake there, but he actually managed to recover it really nicely. And we're not going to fight Fusa on our outlap here. And this is one thing that if you do this strategy and there's a group that have gone ahead of you without doing it, you do have to work together. There's nothing worse than fighting with each other on an outlap in this situation, because all that's going to happen is you're both going to lose time and you're not going to build that advantage up. So we're not going to fight Fusa here. I think we gave him a few flash of the lights just to let him know we're not going to go for any sort of overtake. We're going to bump draft him as much as possible until we get to the pit stop, and obviously they go in the pit. So you can see here, as we're picking up the slip here, the leaders have gone into the pits, and we're just going to give Fusa a nice little bump up the rear there, because like I say, with the power of this slip, there's no point fighting, because all that happens is we lose time. And I think a lot of people get drawn into trying to fight for positions too much. It's normally drivers that aren't as used to fighting at the front that do it, and it's probably because of the custom Slipstream that they're there and they're in that group fighting. So yeah, it's always best when you come to the pit stop in a situation like this is not to fight each other. And you can see again, as we come out of this turn 1, if we get close enough to Fusa, we're going to bump draft him because we're ahead of that group, but only by a couple of seconds. And we need that gap to be as big as possible to be able to try and maintain these positions at the front of this field. Now, some people might be thinking, right, they're only pitting 1 lap later than you, so surely only 1 lap tyre wouldn't make that much of a difference. But with this race running ×5 multiplier on it, their 1 lap of fresher tyres is the equivalent to 5 laps fresher tyres because of obviously the multiplier. And that's why we're working with Fusa again there on the straight. There's no point fighting this too much because we just want to try and build the gap up and hope they fight. Now, we have had another race on this race where we've gone with this strategy and it's worked absolutely perfect. And when it works perfectly and other cars fight, it's great for you because you just get away from all the chaos and you eventually come home without too much fighting. So you do have to pick and choose when you run this 5 lap strategy on the hards and then 5 lap on the softs versus doing 6 laps on the hards and 4 laps on the soft, because overall very often the 4 lap on the hard tyre is going to be better. As we go for the move there, because Fusa, he had a little mistake going up the hill, lost the rear slightly, managed to catch it, but he lost a bit of momentum. So I decided to go through there, hoping towards this stage now with the soft tyres, and McLaren should be slightly better on the front tyre wear, so we should have a little bit more bite on some of them high speed corners. And you can see here, by the time we get to lap 9, we've got a little bit of a gap to Fusa, and he's probably not going to be close enough to even go for a move or even look at an overtake here on this straight. So we're going to go a little bit to the right and then back over to the normal racing line, because I can see in the mirror, even with the slipstream being very strong, he's not really going to be in that position to send it. But what we can see on that replay camera in the bottom right hand corner, you're going to see it now, is we've got the two cars with the fresher tyres right up behind you. You can see on that straight they gained about 6-7 tenths. So that 1 lap fresher tyres has been eliminated now. Sorry, the 1 lap of pitting early has been eliminated, and they're right behind us in the same group with 1 lap fresher. And this is going to be very difficult from this point onwards. And again, this is partly caused by the slipstream because it's so strong. Once they get that 1.7 range, they get dragged right back up to you. And I kind of feel like it does take away a little bit of the element of the undercut because of how strong that is. I really wish we could have a race like this with real slipstream. I think it would make a bit of a difference with maybe a slightly reduced dirty air. Not too much. I think 50% reduction. Keep it there so it's still half as strong when you're following a car. You still get a little bit of loss of aero. But I just do feel that on the current real slip, Gran Turismo, it just incorporates too much dirty air. They exaggerate it far too much. It's not very realistic. If you play other sims out there, no other sim produces the amount that Gran Turismo produces when you're following another car. It's strange. I'm not sure why it is like that. I would love to speak to the developer and see what sort of data they had to show that that's how it should be, because no other sim out there does it like Gran Turismo. Like ACC you can follow pretty well, iRacing you can follow pretty well. So it's an interesting thing. I would really be interested to see where they got that information from to say it should be as bad as it is on this. But you can see here we've managed to hold on to P1 here going into the final lap, and this is going to be really interesting. You can see going into turn 1, we're going to try and brake nice and early, just try and get that exit. Now the McLaren is got very good traction on first gear, and you can see we did actually get a little bit of a gap developed there, but what Sparks is doing there, he's trying to time his slipstream run. Now this is important again, timing your run up this hill. You can see what he's doing is he's staying out the slip, and now he's going to try and get into it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick to the right here because I've got the inside line here. I'm going to try and avoid him getting too much of the slip, and we can stay to the right. And now because we've got such a powerful fifth gear, we're able to actually hold that position. But look at the black car behind us with the slipstream gaining massive amounts. Now he does actually hit us here in the braking zone and then hits us again, which pushes me wide. And I did feel during that moment it was a little bit aggressive, but it is a daily race at the end of the world. At the end of the day, it's not the end of the world, and we move on to race another race. However, what I think caused that was possibly partly the slipstream's fault again, because in my view, I don't think his car would have been in that position without having the slip. You can see as we're fighting Fuser for that P3 and just about managed to stay ahead. So let's have a little watch and see where he came from. So you can see just how far back he is here. And at this stage, there's no way he should be even anywhere near us by the end of the straight. He shouldn't even be near Sparks by the end of the straight. He should be maybe getting close to the rear of him. But just watch how it drags him forward and watch how it puts him into a position. So he's in the slipstream there. And then there is a little bit of contact here as he turns left there. He turns left into me. That affects my braking, and then he hits us again. And it was a little bit aggressive, but I do think it's partly caused by that slipstream being too strong. It drags cars way too much along the straight, and it causes a lot of incidents. I think a lot of the things that you see with dive bombs sometimes are caused by drivers just getting caught out by how strong it is and missing their braking zones and having to go for overtakes because they think, if I don't, I'm going to hit them. So yeah, I do think it's time PD took a look at this and listened. But do we think they're going to listen? I would love to know your thoughts on this. Do we think that eventually they're going to listen and come round to a better system of doing this slipstream, using the real slipstream but with a reduced dirty air? I think would be the perfect way forward, and it would mean we could just run every race on the same power, same race settings. We wouldn't have to keep chopping and changing depending on track. But overall, what I would say of good this race, that is brilliant that they've used the hard and soft tyres on this track. Grand Valley didn't work. This track definitely is a better track to use that. If you do decide to start the softs, you can actually make your way through the field a little bit. However, by the time you've done that, your tyres are going to be too dead because of the ×5 multipliers. You can see there Sparks having a little issue on that final corner. Fuser runs a little bit wide behind us and we take the podium. So not a bad result from P7. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this race. Overall, I think it's a fun race, but it does feel a little bit gimmicky to me with that slipstream. And I'd love to hear what you lot think. Let me know in the comments. Take care, everyone.